The weather heat hit me like a wall as I stepped out of the HEB grocery store, my arms laden with bags filled with food I hadn't bought for myself. At 68 years old, after 40 years of teaching third graders in Austin, I thought retirement would mean lazy mornings, gardening, and maybe finally finishing that novel I'd been writing in my head for decades. Instead, here I was, every Thursday afternoon, buying groceries for my daughter Sarah and her husband Derek, loading them into my 2015 Honda CRV, and driving across town to deliver them. "You're such a lifesaver, Mom," Sarah always said when I arrived. The same words, the same grateful smile, the same quick hug before she disappeared back into her phone or her Netflix show, leaving me to unload everything myself. I had been doing this for 3 years now, ever since Sarah had tearfully called me one night explaining that Derek's business ventures weren't panning out as quickly as expected, that they were struggling, that they just needed a little help to get back on their feet. Of course I'd said yes. What kind of mother would I be if I didn't help my only child? That Thursday in March started like any other. I pulled into their driveway in the Clarksville neighborhood, a trendy area I could never have afforded when I was their age. Their rental house was a charming bungalow with a renovated interior that cost them $2,800 a month. I knew this because I had been paying half their rent for the past 2 years. "Mom," Sarah called from the doorway, but something was different. She looked flustered, almost panicked. "You're early." I checked my watch. "It's 3:30, same as always." Right. It's just, Derek's on an important call. Can you just leave the groceries on the porch?" In 3 years of doing this, I had never been asked to leave the groceries outside. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. "Honey, these bags are heavy and there's ice cream that'll melt. Let me just bring them inside." Sarah's face tightened, but she stepped aside. As I walked through the living room toward the kitchen, I heard Derek's voice from the home office, the door slightly ajar. "Yeah, the credit limit just increased to $15,000. Margaret's credit score is like 810, so they approved it instantly. She has no idea. She still thinks we're struggling. Best investment we ever made, keeping her in the dark." My blood turned to ice. My feet stopped moving. The grocery bags suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. "We'll max this one out like the others. By the time she figures it out, we'll have enough for the down payment on that house in Westlake. Her teacher's pension and my dad's life insurance money sitting in her accounts, it's basically just waiting there for us anyway." I couldn't breathe. I set the grocery bags down silently on their hardwood floor and walked backward toward the door. My vision tunneling, my heart hammering so hard I thought I might have a heart attack right there. Sarah was in the bathroom. I could hear the water running. I slipped out the front door, got into my car, and sat there shaking for 10 minutes before I could even turn the key in the ignition. Credit cards in my name. Multiple credit cards. Maxed out. My father, Sarah's grandfather, had died 2 years ago and left me $150,000 from his life insurance. Money he'd saved his entire life working double shifts at the Ford plant in Michigan. Money he'd left me so I could live comfortably in my retirement, travel a little, not worry about every bill. I drove home in a daze, nearly running a red light on South Congress. When I got to my small house in South Austin, the same house I'd bought in 1992 for $89,000, now worth over $600,000 in this insane market, I went straight to my desk. My hands were shaking as I logged into my credit monitoring account, something I'd set up years ago but rarely checked. I clicked on Open Accounts. My stomach dropped. Capital One Venture Card, $12,450 balance. Opened 14 months ago. Chase Sapphire Reserve, $14,200 balance. Opened 11 months ago. American Express Gold, $8,900 balance. Opened 8 months ago. Discover It, $9,450 balance. Opened 6 months ago. $45,000 in credit card debt that I never knew existed. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. For 3 days, I didn't answer Sarah's calls. She left increasingly frantic voicemails. "Mom, where are you? You left the groceries and just disappeared. Are you okay? Mom, seriously, this isn't funny. Call me back. Mom, we need to talk. Derek thinks you might have overheard something that you misunderstood." That last message made me laugh bitterly. Misunderstood. As if there was any way to misunderstand, she has no idea, and best investment we ever made. On the 4th day, I finally called someone. Not Sarah, not Derek. I called my friend Patricia from the book club I'd joined after retirement. Patricia was a retired legal secretary who'd worked for 35 years at a family law firm downtown. "Margaret," she said after I had explained everything, her voice grave, "you need to call the police. This is identity theft. I don't care if it's your daughter. This is a felony. I can't send my own daughter to jail, Pat." "Then you need a lawyer. Today. Not tomorrow. Today." She gave me the name of Michael Rodriguez, an attorney who specialized in elder financial abuse. "He's expensive," Patricia warned, "but he's worth every penny. And Margaret, this is elder abuse. That's what this is called. She's your daughter, and I know you love her, but you need to protect yourself." That afternoon, I sat in Michael Rodriguez's office in downtown Austin, in one of those glass towers that always made me feel like I didn't belong. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with kind eyes and a calm demeanor that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. I showed him everything. The credit reports, the statements I'd finally pulled from online accounts I didn't know I had, the emails that had been going to an address I'd never created, and accounts Sarah must have set up to intercept any notifications. Michael's expression grew darker as he reviewed each document. "Mrs. Peterson, how are they able to open these accounts in your name? I gave Sarah my information when she said she needed to add me as an emergency contact on her insurance forms last year. She said she needed my social security number, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, all of it. I trusted her." Michael leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Peterson, your daughter has committed multiple federal crimes: identity theft, credit card fraud, wire fraud. We're talking about serious prison time if this were prosecuted." "I don't want her to go to jail," I said quickly. "I just want this to stop. I just want my money back." Unfortunately, it's not that simple. The credit card companies will investigate, and they may press charges regardless of what you want. But first, we need to file a police report, freeze your credit, and start the process of disputing these charges. "What about the money from my father's life insurance? Derek mentioned it in his phone call. Can they access that?" Michael's jaw tightened. "What bank is it in?" "Austin Community Bank. It's in a money market account." "Do you have online banking?" "Yes, but I don't check it very often. Maybe once a month." "Mrs. Peterson, we need to check it right now." With shaking hands, I logged into my online banking on Michael's computer. When the account balance loaded, I felt the room spin. $150,000 had become $73,426. Over $76,000 was gone. Where did it go?" I whispered. Michael clicked through the transaction history. Transfers. Dozens of transfers over the past 18 months to an account at a different bank. The routing number indicated it was Chase Bank. "They've been draining it slowly," Michael said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Small enough amounts that you wouldn't notice on a casual glance, but consistently. $3,000 here, $5,000 there. Mrs. Peterson, do you have any joint accounts with your daughter?" "No, never. That's my money, my father's money. How could they access it?" Michael pulled up the transfer authorizations. Each one had been initiated online, verified with two-factor authentication sent to a phone number I didn't recognize. They've had access to your phone, either physically or remotely. Have you ever let your daughter borrow your phone for an extended period? I thought back. Last year, my screen cracked. Sarah took it to get it repaired. She had it for 3 days. That's when they did it. They could have installed spyware, cloned your SIM card, set up call forwarding, any number of things. Mrs. Peterson, I'm going to be very direct with you. Your daughter and son-in-law have been systematically robbing you for over a year. This is not a misunderstanding. This is not them borrowing money. This is calculated, premeditated, financial elder abuse. Hearing it stated so plainly in that cold office with the Austin skyline behind him finally broke through my denial. I started to cry. Not pretty tears, but ugly, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and wounded inside me. I raised her alone. Her father left when she was 3. I worked 2 jobs to send her to college. I thought we were close. Michael handed me a box of tissues and waited patiently for me to compose myself. Mrs. Peterson, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen hundreds of cases like this. The hardest thing for people to accept is that the person stealing from them is someone they love. But I need you to understand something. The person who would do this to you is not the daughter you raised. Or maybe they are, and you just didn't want to see it. Either way, you have a choice right now. You can protect yourself, or you can let this continue, because I promise you, if you don't stop this now, they will take everything. I wiped my eyes. What do I do? First, we go to the police station, right now. We file a report, then we freeze all your credit, change every password you have, get you a new phone number, new email. We build a wall between you and them, and then we fight to get your money back. What about Sarah? What happens to her? That depends on a lot of factors. But Mrs. Peterson, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that your daughter may go to jail. And more importantly, you need to decide if you're willing to let that happen to protect yourself. I thought about my father, a man who'd worked until he was 75 because he wanted to leave me something. A man who'd never taken a vacation, who'd driven the same truck for 20 years, who'd eaten leftovers for lunch every day to save money, all so that his daughter, me, wouldn't have to struggle. And Sarah had stolen it, while calling me mom, while letting me buy her groceries, while hugging me and telling me she loved me. Let's go to the police, I said. The Austin Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit was located in a building that smelled like old coffee and industrial cleaner. Detective Lisa Chen was assigned to my case, a woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that I found comforting. Mrs. Peterson, she said after I had explained everything, I'm going to be honest with you. In cases like this, where it's family, prosecution can be tricky. District attorneys are often reluctant to press charges because victims frequently recant or refuse to testify. Are you prepared to see this through? I thought about the $45,000 in credit card debt I now owed, about the $76,000 stolen from my inheritance, about how I'd been going without things I wanted, new glasses, a trip to visit my sister in Oregon, repairs on my house, so I could help Sarah and Derek get back on their feet. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. Detective Chen nodded. Good, because the moment they know you filed this report, things are going to get ugly. They're going to call you. They're going to show up at your house. They're going to cry, beg, threaten, manipulate. They'll tell you that you're destroying your family, that you're sending your own daughter to prison, that you're a terrible mother. Are you prepared for that? I wasn't, but I said yes anyway. The detective walked me through the process. They'd need all my financial records. They'd interview Sarah and Derek. They'd subpoena bank records and credit card statements. It would take months, maybe years. What do I do in the meantime? I asked. You protect yourself. You document everything. You don't engage with them unless it's through your lawyer. And Mrs. Peterson, Detective Chen looked at me seriously. You change your locks. Today. By the time I left the police station, it was after 7 p.m. Mike and Rodriguez had already arranged for a locksmith to meet me at my house. As I pulled into my driveway, I saw Sarah's car parked on the street. She got out as soon as she saw me, her face a mask of concern and confusion. Mom, oh my God, where have you been? I've been worried sick. I walked past her toward my front door, where the locksmith was waiting. Mrs. Peterson? He asked. I'm Jimmy from Austin Fastlocks. Your attorney sent me. Sarah's expression changed instantly. Locksmith? Mom, what's going on? I'm changing my locks, Sarah. Why? Did something happen? Were you robbed? The irony of that question was almost funny. Yes, I said calmly. I was robbed. By you and Derek. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? I know about the credit cards, Sarah. All of them. And I know about the transfers from my savings account. $76,000, Sarah. You stole $76,000 from me. Mom, I can explain. I don't want to hear it. I was at the police station this afternoon. I filed a report. They're opening an investigation. Sarah's shock morphed into something else, something harder, angrier. You called the police on your own daughter? You committed identity theft against your own mother. We were going to pay you back. With what money, Sarah? You don't have jobs. You have my money. Money you stole. The locksmith was working quietly, pretending not to hear this conversation, but I could see his discomfort. Sarah tried a different approach, her voice softening. Mom, please, let's talk about this inside. Don't do this in front of strangers. We can work this out. We're family. No, we're not doing this inside. You're not coming inside anymore. When Jimmy is done, you won't have keys to my house, and if you come onto my property again, I'll call the police. You're seriously going to do this? Over money? Over $121,000, Sarah. Over my father's life insurance money that he saved for 50 years so I could be comfortable. Over my credit score, which is now destroyed. Over my retirement, which you've stolen. Yes, I'm going to do this over money, because apparently money is the only thing that matters to you. Sarah's phone rang. She answered it, said, she knows everything, and then hung up. Seconds later, Derek's truck screeched to a halt in front of my house. He jumped out, red-faced and aggressive in a way I'd never seen before. Margaret, what the hell do you think you're doing? Protecting myself from thieves. Thieves, we're your family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't commit felonies. Derek stepped closer, looming over me. The locksmith immediately moved between us. Sir, I'm going to need you to step back. This is none of your business, Derek snarled. Actually, sir, threatening someone on their own property is assault, and I'm a witness, so I suggest you step back. Derek glared at him, but moved back slightly. Margaret, you're making a huge mistake. We can clear this up right now. We'll pay you back. We'll set up a payment plan. You've had 18 months to tell me the truth. You chose not to. You chose to keep stealing. And Derek, I heard your phone call on Thursday. I heard you laughing about how I had no idea. I heard you call keeping me in the dark the best investment you ever made. So no, we're not clearing anything up. My lawyer and the police will handle it from here. Sarah started crying, real tears this time, tears of fear. Mom, please, they'll put me in jail. I'll have a criminal record. My life will be over. You should have thought about that before you stole from me. We needed it. Derek's business wasn't making money and we had bills. Then you should have gotten jobs, like normal adults. You don't get to steal from your mother because you're too lazy or too proud to work. All done, ma'am, Jimmy the locksmith said, handing me a set of new keys. No one's getting in without your permission now. I paid him, thanked him, and watched him drive away. Then I turned to Sarah and Derek, standing on my lawn like strangers. Don't contact me except through my lawyer, Michael Rodriguez, at Rodriguez and Associates. You'll be hearing from him, and from the police. I walked inside and locked my new deadbolt. Through the window, I watched them stand there for a long moment, arguing with each other. Then Sarah collapsed onto the curb, sobbing, while Derek kicked my mailbox hard enough to knock it over. I called Detective Chen and reported the vandalism. She said she'd add it to the file. That night, my phone, which Michael had helped me replace and secure with a new number, rang just once. It was an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. You're a horrible mother. You're throwing your own daughter under the bus to protect your precious money.
What kind of person does that? I hope you're happy, you selfish old bitch. You're going to die alone and no one's going to care. I saved the voicemail and sent it to Detective Chen and Michael Rodriguez. The war had begun.
The next morning, my doorbell rang at 6:45 a.m. Through the window, I saw Sarah standing there, looking exhausted and disheveled. I didn't open the door. "Mom, please, I just want to talk. 5 minutes, please." I said nothing. "Mom, I know you're in there. Your car is in the driveway. Please. I haven't slept all night. Derek left. He said this is all my fault, that I should have been more careful, that I ruined everything. Mom, I need you." I almost opened the door. Almost. But then I remembered Michael's words. They will say anything to get access to you again. Anything. "Contact me through my lawyer," I called through the door. "I can't afford a lawyer. You've frozen us out of everything. We can't even pay rent this month. Mom, they're going to evict us." "You should have thought of that before you stole $121,000 from me." "It wasn't stealing. You would have given it to us anyway. You always said everything you have is mine someday." There it was. The truth underneath all the lies. She genuinely believed she was entitled to my money, that it was already hers, just sitting in my accounts waiting for her convenience. "Someday, when I'm dead, Sarah. Not now while I'm still alive and need it." "You don't need it. You live in the same house you've had for 30 years. You drive a car that's 9 years old. You wear the same clothes. You're just hoarding money while Derek and I are struggling." "Goodbye, Sarah." Fine. Destroy your own daughter's life. See if I care. You were always like this. Cold, judgmental, impossible to please. I'm glad I took the money. You didn't deserve it." And there was the shift, from victim to attacker, from begging to blaming. Exactly what Detective Chen had predicted. Over the next 2 weeks, the harassment escalated. They drove past my house multiple times a day. Derek left notes on my windshield calling me names I won't repeat. Sarah created a fake Facebook profile and posted in neighborhood groups that I was a dangerous elder who should be in a nursing home exhibiting signs of dementia and paranoia. Patricians from book club called me. "Margaret, I saw some posts about you in the neighborhood group. I flagged them as harassment. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Pat. It's just Sarah and Derek trying to make me look crazy." "It's working on some people. Linda Morrison told me at the grocery store that she heard you'd been struggling mentally and that your family was worried about you." This was a new level of evil. They were systematically trying to destroy my reputation, to make it seem like I was the one who was unreliable, confused, incompetent. If they could convince people I was mentally unfit, they could potentially argue that I'd authorized the credit cards and transfers while confused, or even try to get guardianship over me. I called Michael Rodriguez immediately. "They're trying to build a defense," he confirmed. "If they can establish that you have diminished capacity, they can argue that you gave them permission or that you're misremembering events. Margaret, I think we need to be proactive here. I want you to see a doctor and get a full cognitive assessment. We need documentation that you're of sound mind." So I went to my longtime physician, Dr. Sarah Kim, yes, also named Sarah, which felt like a cosmic joke, and explained the situation. She ordered a full neurological workup and cognitive assessment. The test took 3 hours. Memory tests, problem-solving exercises, pattern recognition. By the end, I was exhausted but confident. Dr. Kim reviewed the results with me a week later. "Margaret, your cognitive function is excellent. You're in the 95th percentile for your age group. You have no signs of dementia, no memory issues, no diminished capacity whatsoever. In fact, you're sharper than most 50-year-olds I see." The relief I felt was overwhelming. I had the documentation I needed. But Sarah and Derek weren't done. Next, they filed a report with Adult Protective Services claiming I was self-neglecting, refusing medical care, and showing signs of financial exploitation by new acquaintances. An Adult Protective Services caseworker named Tom Harrison showed up at my door one afternoon. He was apologetic but thorough. "Mrs. Peterson, I have to investigate all reports. Can I come in and talk with you?" I let him in and showed him everything: my clean, well-maintained home, my full refrigerator, my medical records, showing I was up to date on all checkups,
my cognitive assessment from Dr. Kim, the police report I'd filed, my lawyer's documentation of the identity theft. Tom's expression grew increasingly uncomfortable as he reviewed everything. Mrs. Peterson, I'm going to be frank with you. This report was filed maliciously. You're clearly not being neglected or exploited. In fact, you're the victim here. I'm closing this case and noting in my report that the complaint was false. I'm also going to recommend to the DA that filing a false APS report be added to the charges against your daughter and son-in-law. Can they keep doing this? Keep filing false reports, keep harassing me? Unfortunately, until they're actually charged and convicted, yes. But every false report they file strengthens your case and weakens theirs. They're digging their own graves. After Tom left, I sat on my couch and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was so tired. Tired of fighting, tired of defending myself, to having to prove I wasn't crazy to strangers because my own daughter was lying about me. Patricia came over that evening with dinner, homemade lasagna and a bottle of wine. "You're not alone in this," she said firmly. "The entire book club is behind you. We're putting together a roster. Someone will check on you every day and will document everything. If Sarah or Derek show up and harass you, you'll have witnesses." I started crying again, but this time it was gratitude. "Why are you all doing this for me?" "Because it's right. Because what's happening to you is wrong. And because honestly, Margaret, half of us have dealt with similar things from our own families. Maybe not to this extent, but enough to recognize it." Linda from book club had been financially abused by her son for years. Carol's daughter had forged her signature on a home equity loan. Janet's grandson had stolen her pain medication and sold it. "It's more common than you think," Pat said. "Elder financial abuse. And it's almost always family members, the people you trust most." That night, I made a decision. I was going to fight, but I was also going to live. I wasn't going to let Sarah and Derek steal my peace along with my money. I enrolled in a watercolor painting class at the community center. I started volunteering at the elementary school where I used to teach. I went to book club every week, to yoga twice a week, to lunch with friends. I lived my life loudly and publicly, creating a record of a woman who was healthy, active, engaged, and very sane.
3 months after I filed the police report, Detective Chin called me. "We have enough evidence to move forward. The DA is charging both of them, Sarah with identity theft, wire fraud, and credit card fraud, Derek with conspiracy and aiding and abetting. They'll be arrested this week." My hands went numb. Arrested? Yes, they'll be taken into custody, booked, and arraigned. They'll likely be released on bond, but there will be conditions, no contact with you being one of them. Detective Chin, I didn't even know what I was trying to say. Part of me felt vindicated, another part felt sick. "Mrs. Peterson, I know this is hard, but you did the right thing. I've seen cases where victims didn't press charges and the abuse continued for years, sometimes until there was nothing left. You stopped it." Sarah and Derek were arrested on a Thursday. Ironic, since that had been my grocery delivery day. I heard about it from Patricia, who heard about it from a neighbor who saw the police cars outside their rental house in Clarksville. They made bond within hours. Derek's parents, who I'd met only twice in the 8 years Sarah had been with him, posted it. They were older, wealthy, living in Dallas. I wondered what Derek had told them. Probably that I was a crazy, vindictive old woman trying to destroy his son's life. The no-contact order was issued immediately. Sarah and Derek were prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. Violating it would mean immediate jail time. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days after their arrest, Derek's mother, Patricia Donovan, showed up at my door. She was in her early 70s, perfectly coiffed, wearing expensive clothes and an expression of pure contempt. "Mrs. Peterson, I'm Patricia Donovan, Derek's mother. We need to talk." "Mrs. Donovan, I don't think that's appropriate." "What's not appropriate is having my son arrested because you're too senile to remember giving them permission to use your credit cards." I stared at her. "Excuse me?"
Derek explained everything to me. You've been showing signs of dementia for months. You authorized those credit cards and transfers, and now you're confused and trying to blame them. My son is not a thief. He's trying to help his struggling mother-in-law, and this is how you repay him? Mrs. Donovan, I have full medical documentation of my cognitive health. Your son and my daughter stole $121,000 from me. I never authorized anything. That's your dementia talking. My husband and I have consulted with our attorneys, and we're prepared to file a lawsuit for defamation and false prosecution. You're destroying two young people's lives because you're confused and bitter. I have recorded evidence of Derek bragging about stealing from me. I have bank records showing unauthorized transfers. I have credit card statements for accounts I never opened. This isn't confusion, Mrs. Donovan. This is crime. Her expression hardened even further. We'll see what a jury says. My lawyers will tear you apart on the stand. A sad, lonely old woman, estranged from her only child, making up stories for attention. It practically writes itself. Your son called me a selfish old bitch on my voicemail and said I should die alone. I have that recording, too. Would you like to hear it? For the first time, Patricia Donovan looked uncertain. I think you should leave, I said calmly. And if you come back, I'll report it to the police as witness intimidation. She left, but not before saying, "You'll regret this, Mrs. Peterson. Mark my words." I called Michael Rodriguez and Detective Chin immediately to report the visit. Both of them were concerned. The Donovans have money and influence. They're going to make this harder than it needs to be. Be prepared for a fight. The fight came faster than expected. A week later, Sarah and Derek, funded by Derek's parents, filed a civil lawsuit against me for financial elder abuse, undue influence, and defamation. I read the lawsuit in stunned disbelief. They were claiming that I had manipulated them into taking on debt in my name, promising to pay it off, and then reneged when I came under the influence of new friends who isolated me from my family. They were suing me for $200,000 in damages. It's a slap suit, Michael explained. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. They're trying to intimidate you into dropping the criminal charges by burying you in legal fees and stress. It's disgusting, but it's legal. Can they win? Not based on the evidence, but they can drag it out, cost you money, and make your life hell for a while. However, he smiled grimly, we can fight back, and we will. The next few months were a blur of depositions, court filings, and legal maneuvering. Derek's parents hired expensive lawyers who tried every trick in the book, demanding psych evaluations, questioning every financial decision I'd made in the past decade, painting me as a hoarder who was obsessed with money. But we had something they didn't, the truth, and evidence to back it up. The credit card companies' fraud investigations all concluded that the accounts were opened without my knowledge or consent. The bank confirmed that the transfers from my money market account were made using compromised two-factor authentication. Dr. Tim testified about my perfect cognitive health. Patricia, Linda, Carol, and Janet from Book Club testified about my mental clarity and active lifestyle. And then Michael played Derek's phone call, the one I'd overheard at their house, the one where Derek bragged about stealing from me. I watched the color drain from Derek's face as his own voice filled the courtroom. She has no idea. She still thinks we're struggling. Best investment we ever made, keeping her in the dark. Even their expensive lawyers couldn't spin that. The civil lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. The judge called it a frivolous and malicious and ordered Derek's parents to pay my legal fees. But the criminal trial was still coming.
The criminal trial began on a cold morning in January, almost exactly 1 year after I'd overheard Derek's phone call. I wore my best navy suit, the one I'd bought for retirement parties and thought I'd never wear again. Sarah wouldn't look at me as she walked into the courtroom. She'd lost weight, looked older, harder. Derek walked beside her, his jaw set, his eyes filled with a hatred that made me grateful for the no-contact order. The trial lasted 5 days. The prosecution presented all the evidence: the credit card statements, the bank records, the recordings, the testimony from fraud investigators. They proved systematically and thoroughly that Sarah and Derek had stolen from me. The defense tried to argue that I'd given verbal permission, that I was confused, that I'd wanted to help them. But they couldn't explain Derek's recorded words. They couldn't explain the fake email account set up to intercept notifications. They couldn't explain the spyware found on my old phone. On the witness stand, I told my story calmly and clearly. I explained how I'd helped them for 3 years, genuinely believing they were struggling, how I'd discovered the truth, how devastating it had been to realize my own daughter saw me as nothing more than a source of money. Sarah's lawyer, during cross-examination, tried to paint me as cold and unforgiving. "Mrs. Peterson, isn't it true that you called the police on your own daughter within days of discovering these credit cards?" "Yes." "Didn't you think that was extreme? Didn't you consider just talking to her first, working it out as a family?" "She had 18 months to talk to me. She chose to lie instead. And it wasn't just the credit cards. It was $76,000 stolen from my savings account. At what point is a daughter obligated to tell her mother the truth?" "But she's your only child. Don't you love her?" I paused, feeling every eye in the courtroom on me. I love the daughter I raised, the little girl who used to make me breakfast in bed on Mother's Day. But that person either died or never existed. The woman sitting at that table stole over $100,000 from me and laughed about it. So no, I don't love who she's become. And loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. The lawyer had no response to that. When it was Sarah's turn to testify, she cried. She apologized. She said she'd made terrible mistakes, but that she'd been under Derek's influence, that he'd convinced her it was okay, that she'd planned to pay me back. "You have to understand," she sobbed, looking directly at me for the first time. "We were desperate. We were going to lose everything. I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd want to help us." "Did I ever say no when you asked for help?" "No, but..." "Did Mrs. Peterson pay half your rent for 2 years?" "Yes." "Did she buy your groceries every week?" "Yes." "Did she give you money whenever you asked?" "Yes, but it was never enough. She has all this money just sitting there, and we were drowning." And there it was. The entitlement. The belief that my money was somehow theirs by right. Derek's testimony was worse. He showed no remorse, only anger. Margaret lived like a miser. Same old house, same old car, never spending anything on herself. She was sitting on a fortune while her own daughter struggled. We didn't steal from her, we just accelerated our inheritance. "Mr. Donovan," the prosecutor said, "Mrs. Peterson is 68 years old and in excellent health. She could live another 20 or 30 years. Were you planning to wait that long for your inheritance?" Derek's face reddened. "She doesn't need all that money. Old people don't need that much. She should be helping her family." "Did you and Miss Peterson ever consider getting jobs?" "I was building a business that, according to tax records, has never made a profit and appears primarily to exist on paper, while living rent-free thanks to Mrs. Peterson's money, correct?" Derek had no good answer. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Sarah collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Derek sat frozen, his face blank with shock. His parents, sitting in the back row, got up and left immediately. Sentencing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. Between the verdict and sentencing, something unexpected happened. Sarah sent me a letter. It came through her lawyer as she was still under the no-contact order, but Michael forwarded it to me. Dear Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to even read this, but I need to say it anyway. I was wrong. Not just about the money, I was wrong about everything. I was wrong to use you. I was wrong to lie to you. I was wrong to convince myself that I deserved your money just because I'm your daughter. For years, Derek and I lived in this fantasy where we were always just one break away from success. One business deal, one investment, one opportunity. And we used your money to fund that fantasy. We told ourselves we'd pay you back when we made it, but we never made it because we never tried. We just kept taking from you. I see that now. I see what I became. I see the woman at that trial who looked like me but who I don't recognize. The woman who stole from her own mother. The woman who destroyed the person who loved her most in the world. You asked me on the stand if I love you. The truth is, I don't know if I ever learned how to love properly. You gave me everything, and I learned to just take. I learned that love meant money, that caring meant paying for things, that being family meant having access to your bank account. That wasn't your fault. That was mine. You were a wonderful mother. You sacrificed everything for me, and I threw it all away because I was selfish and lazy and entitled. I'm going to prison. Derek is going to prison. We deserve it. And Mom, I want you to know something. I'm glad you turned us in. I'm glad you stopped us. Because we would have taken everything from you, and we would have convinced ourselves we deserved it. You saved yourself from us. I just wish you hadn't had to. I don't expect you to write back. I don't expect you to visit me. I don't expect anything from you ever again. I just wanted you to know that you were right, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. Sarah. I read the letter 3 times, sitting at my kitchen table. I cried, but I didn't respond. Michael advised against it, and besides, I didn't know what I would say. The sentencing hearing was brutal. The judge, Judge Patricia Morales, a stern woman in her 60s, listened to victim impact statements, character witnesses, and pleas for leniency from Derek's parents. When it was my turn to speak, I stood at the podium and looked at Sarah for the first time since the verdict. Your Honor, my daughter stole from me. She lied to me. She let me believe we had a loving relationship while she was systematically robbing me of my future. But that's not even the worst part. I paused, my voice catching. The worst part is that she made me doubt myself. She made me question my own sanity. She filed false reports claiming I was incompetent. She turned neighbors against me. She tried to destroy my reputation so she could keep stealing. That kind of abuse doesn't just hurt financially. It hurts in ways that money can't measure. I'm 68 years old. I should be enjoying my retirement, traveling, spending time with family. Instead, I've spent the past year fighting to prove I'm not crazy, fighting to protect what little I have left, fighting my own daughter in court. I looked directly at Sarah. You asked me on the stand if I love you. The truth is, I don't know if I ever learned how to love properly. You gave me everything, and I learned to just take. I learned that love meant money, that caring meant paying for things, that being family meant having access to your bank account. That wasn't your fault. That was mine. You were a wonderful mother. You sacrificed everything for me, and I threw it all away because I was selfish and lazy and entitled. I'm going to prison. Derek is going to prison. We deserve it. And Mom, I want you to know something. I'm glad you turned us in. I'm glad you stopped us, because we would have taken everything from you, and we would have convinced ourselves we deserved it. You saved yourself from us. I just wish you hadn't had to. Judge Morales nodded and then delivered her sentence. Sarah received 3 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of probation.
Derek received 5 years because of his leadership role and because the recorded phone call showed premeditation and callousness. Both were ordered to pay full restitution, $121,000 plus legal fees and interest. Derek's parents tried to pay the restitution immediately to reduce his sentence, but Judge Morales refused. This restitution will be paid by the defendants through wage garnishment during and after their incarceration. They need to understand that actions have consequences, and their wealthy parents cannot simply write a check to make this go away. As Sarah was led away in handcuffs, she looked back at me one last time. Her mouth formed the word sorry, but no sound came out. I nodded. It was the closest thing to forgiveness I could offer.
The months after the sentencing were strange. I should have felt relief, vindication, peace. Instead, I felt empty. I had won, but what had I won? My money was being repaid in small increments, $200 a month from their prison wages and future earnings. At that rate, I'd be 88 before I got everything back. My credit score had improved, but was still damaged. The credit card companies had written off most of the debt as fraud, but the whole ordeal had left marks on my financial record that would take years to fully heal. And I was alone. Truly alone. My only child was in prison. My only living parent, my father, was gone. His legacy stolen. I had friends from book club, my volunteer work, my art classes, but it wasn't the same as family. Or was it? One evening, Patricia from book club organized a dinner at her house. She invited all the women who had supported me through the trial: Linda, Carol, Janet, and a few others I'd gotten to know. "We want to talk to you about something," Patricia said after we'd finished eating. "We've all noticed that you've been distant lately, sad, and we understand why. But, Margaret, we want you to know something." Linda picked up the thread. "You keep saying you're alone, but you're not. We're your family now, not by blood, but by choice, and that matters just as much, maybe more." Carol added, "My daughter doesn't speak to me anymore because I cut her off financially. Janet's grandson stole from her. Patricia's son only calls when he needs money. We've all been through versions of what you experienced, and we chose each other." "We want to make it official," Patricia said, pulling out a sheet of paper. "We're forming a support group, Texas Elder Advocacy and Support, TEAS. We're going to help other elderly people who are being financially abused by family members. We're going to share our stories, provide resources, offer support, and we want you to be part of it." I looked around the table at these women, these strong, resilient, wise women who had survived their own betrayals and come out the other side. But I'm not a counselor or a social worker. What could I possibly offer? "Your story," Janet said simply. "You fought back. You won. So many people in our situation don't. They let the abuse continue because they're ashamed, or they don't want to break up the family, or they think it's their fault. You can show them it's possible to fight back and survive." So I did. Teas started small, just the 6 of us meeting in Patricia's living room, sharing our experiences and researching resources. But word spread. Within a month, we had 15 members. Within 3 months, 30. Within 6 months, we were meeting in a community center and had to split into 2 groups. I heard stories that made mine seem almost tame. Adult children who forged deeds to steal their parents' houses. Grandchildren who convinced grandparents with dementia to sign over power of attorney. Family members who isolated elderly relatives from friends and medical care to maintain control over their finances. But I also heard stories of survival, resistance, and recovery. People who fought back. People who called the police on their own children, just like I had. People who chose self-preservation over family loyalty and found peace in that choice. I started speaking at local senior centers, churches, and community organizations. I told my story, all of it, including the parts that made me look foolish and naive. I wanted people to understand that financial elder abuse doesn't just happen to stupid people or bad parents. It happens to loving, generous people who trust the wrong individuals.
One evening, after a talk at a Methodist church in Pflugerville, an older man approached me. He was probably in his late 70s, thin and anxious looking. "Mrs. Peterson, I think my son is stealing from me," he whispered. "My bank account keeps having these transfers I don't recognize. But he's my son. How can I turn him in? What will people think?" I took his hand. "They'll think you're brave. They'll think you're smart. They'll think you value yourself enough to protect yourself. And the people who think badly of you, those people don't matter. But he's my only family." "Then get a new family. Find people who value you for who you are, not what's in your bank account. I did, and I've never been happier." That wasn't entirely true. I still had moments of deep sadness, especially on holidays when I thought about what my relationship with Sarah might have been. But it was mostly true. I had built a life that I was proud of, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. 6 months after the sentencing, I received another letter from Sarah. This one was different. "Dear Mom, I don't deserve a second chance. I know that. But I'm writing anyway because I need you to know something. Prison is teaching me things I should have learned as a child. How to work hard, how to live within my means, how to earn what I have instead of taking it from others, how to respect people who can't give me anything. I have a job in the prison library. I make 23 cents an hour. I'm saving every penny to pay you back. At this rate, it'll take decades, but I'm going to do it. Every single dollar I stole from you, I'm going to return, even if it takes the rest of my life. I've also been seeing a therapist here. She's helping me understand why I became the person I became. It's not an excuse. There is no excuse for what I did. But I'm trying to understand so I can be different when I get out. Derek and I are divorced. I filed the paperwork last month. He's shown no remorse, no change. He still blames you for overreacting. He still thinks we were entitled to your money. I can't be married to someone like that anymore. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to write back or visit or even think about me. But I want you to know that what you did, turning me in, fighting back, it saved my life. If you hadn't stopped me, I would have kept going until there was nothing left of either of us. You loved me enough to let me face consequences. That's real love. I just wish I had understood that sooner. I'm reading a lot in the prison library. I read a book about family estrangement, and there was a line that made me think of you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. You walked away from me, and it was the most loving thing you have ever done. Thank you. With genuine remorse, Sarah. This time I did write back. Not a long letter, but a short one. Sarah, I received your letter. I hear your remorse, and I believe it's genuine. I hope prison gives you the time and space to become the person you want to be. I'm not ready to have a relationship with you. I may never be ready. But I don't wish you harm, and I hope you find peace. I'm doing well. I've built a good life with good people. I hope you can do the same when you get out. Take care of yourself. Mom. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't hatred either. It was something in between. Acknowledgement, closure, a door not opened but not completely locked either.
2 years after Sarah's sentencing, I did something I'd been putting off. I updated my will. Sitting in my lawyer's office, Michael Rodriguez asked me the question I'd been dreading. What do you want to leave to Sarah? I thought about it for a long time. Despite everything, she was still my daughter. The little girl who used to climb into my lap and fall asleep. The teenager who cried on my shoulder after her first heartbreak. The young woman who called me her best friend. But she was also the woman who stole from me, who lied to me, who tried to have me declared incompetent. Leave her $10,000, I finally said. Not because she deserves it, but because she's my daughter and I want her to have something to start over with when she gets out of prison. But there are conditions. What conditions?
She can only access it if she's completed her full sentence without parole violations, completed financial counseling, and maintained employment for at least 1 year after release. And it has to be paid in installments over 5 years, not all at once. If she violates any of those conditions, the money goes to Tease instead. Michael nodded approvingly. Smart. You're giving her a chance, but you're protecting it from being squandered. The rest, my house, my savings, everything else, goes to Tease and to a scholarship fund at my old elementary school for children from single-parent households. Kids whose parents are doing what I did, working 2 jobs and sacrificing everything. No family at all? Tease is my family. Michael smiled. Then that's what we'll do. After finalizing my will, I felt a weight lift. I had provided for the people and causes that mattered to me. I had given Sarah a chance without giving her everything. I had made sure my father's legacy would help people, even if it was different people than he'd imagined. That summer, Tease held its first annual fundraiser. We raised $15,000 to provide legal assistance to elderly victims of financial abuse who couldn't afford lawyers. Patricia gave a speech about the organization's mission. Linda talked about her own experience. And I stood up and told my story one more time. 2 years ago, I discovered my daughter had stolen over $120,000 from me. The crowd, about 100 people, was silent. I felt like my life was over, like I'd lost everything. And in a way, I had. I'd lost the daughter I thought I knew. I'd lost years of savings. I'd lost my sense of safety and trust. But I gained something too. I gained self-respect. I gained the knowledge that I could fight back, that I could be strong, that I could choose myself even when it was painful and difficult. I gained all of you, this community of survivors who understand what it means to be betrayed by family and to choose yourself anyway. If there's anyone here tonight who is being financially abused by family, I want you to hear this. It's not your fault. You're not stupid for trusting someone you love. You're not wrong for wanting to help your children or grandchildren. But you're also not obligated to let them destroy you. You have a right to protect yourself. You have a right to say no. You have a right to call the police on someone who's committing a crime, even if that someone shares your DNA. Fight back. Get help. Save yourself. Because you matter. Your life matters. Your future matters. And the people who truly love you will understand that. The applause was thunderous. Afterwards, a dozen people came up to me, some crying, telling me their own stories, asking for advice. I gave them Michael Rodriguez's card, information about Tease, and most importantly, I gave them permission to choose themselves. One woman, probably in her early 70s, with kind eyes and trembling hands, said, "My grandson has been stealing from me for 5 years. I knew, but I didn't want to admit it. Hearing your story, I think I'm ready to stop it now." "What's your name?" I asked. "Elizabeth. Elizabeth Torres." "Elizabeth, it's going to be hard. They're going to call you cruel, selfish, a bad grandmother. They're going to try to make you doubt yourself. But you have to remember, protecting yourself from theft isn't cruel. It's necessary." She hugged me, and I felt her tears on my shoulder. "Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to show us how." But I didn't feel brave. I felt like I'd simply done what I had to do to survive.
3 years after Sarah's sentencing, I received a notification that she was being released on parole. She'd served her time with good behavior, completed every program available to her, and earned her release 6 months early. I didn't go to pick her up. Patricia offered to go with me, but I declined. Sarah had arranged for a halfway house in Houston, 3 hours away from Austin, far enough that we wouldn't accidentally run into each other, close enough that she could rebuild her life in Texas if she wanted to. A month after her release, she sent me an email asking if she could visit. Not to ask for money, she assured me, not to ask for forgiveness, just to see me, to show me who she'd become. I talked it over with Patricia, with my therapist. Yes, I'd started seeing one after the trial, with my TEAS support group. Everyone had different opinions. You don't know her anything, Linda said. But maybe you owe yourself closure, Carol suggested. Whatever you decide, we'll support you, Patricia assured me. In the end, I agreed to meet her. Not at my house. That felt too vulnerable. At a coffee shop in downtown Austin. Public and neutral. She looked different. Thinner, older, worn down by prison, but also somehow more substantial, more real. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a plain blue shirt, and no makeup. She looked like she'd learned to live without the pretenses that used to define her. We sat across from each other, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Thank you for meeting me," she finally said. "You're welcome. I know you don't trust me. I don't expect you to. But I wanted you to see that I'm different. I have a job. I'm working at a library in Houston. I have an apartment, just a studio, but it's mine, and I'm paying for it myself. I'm in therapy. I'm attending financial literacy classes. I'm doing everything I should have done 10 years ago." "That's good, Sarah. I'm glad you're doing well. I've been paying you back. Every month, $200 from my prison wages. Now that I'm out and working, I'm sending $500 a month. It's going to take years, decades maybe, but I'm going to pay back every penny." "I know. I've been receiving the payments." "Mom, She stopped, her voice catching. "I don't expect us to have a relationship again. I know I destroyed that. But I need you to know that I understand now. I understand what I took from you. It wasn't just money. It was your sense of safety, your trust, your peace of mind. I took your retirement and tried to turn it into my lifestyle. That was unforgivable." I listened, watching her carefully, looking for signs of manipulation or deception, but I didn't see any. I just saw a broken woman trying to put herself back together. "Sarah, I've done a lot of thinking over the past 3 years. About you, about me, about how we got here. And I realized something. I made mistakes too." She looked up, surprised. "I never taught you the value of money because I never let you struggle. Every time you had a problem, I solved it with money. I thought that's what good mothers did, but I was wrong. I should have taught you to solve your own problems. I should have let you fail sometimes." "Mom, that doesn't excuse what I did." "No, it doesn't. What you did was criminal, and you deserve to go to prison. But I played a role in creating the person who could do that. I taught you that money solves everything, that your problems were my responsibility, that you didn't have to be independent. I'm sorry for that." Sarah started crying, not manipulative tears, but real, gut-wrenching sobs. "I don't deserve your apology. I don't deserve anything from you." "Maybe not, but I'm giving it anyway, because holding on to anger forever only hurts me. I'm not saying I forgive you completely. I'm not saying we can go back to how things were. But I'm saying I understand how we both contributed to this situation, and I'm willing to let go of my part in it." We talked for 2 hours. She told me about prison, about the women she'd met there, about the things she'd learned. I told her about TEAS, about the work I was doing, about the life I'd built. "You sound happy," she said. "I am. Happier than I've been in years. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy, Mom. You always have." As we were leaving, she asked if I could hug her. I hesitated, then nodded. The hug was brief and awkward, but it was something. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "And thank you for stopping me. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. If you hadn't turned me in, I would have kept going until there was nothing left. You saved my life by refusing to let me destroy yours." "Take care of yourself, Sarah." "You too, Mom."
I watched her walk away, and I felt not forgiveness exactly, but something close. Release, maybe. The letting go of a burden I'd been carrying for years. Would we ever have a real relationship again? I didn't know. Maybe someday. Maybe never. But that was okay. I had built a life that didn't require her to be in it.
5 years after Sarah's release, 8 years after I'd first discovered the theft, I celebrated my 76th birthday surrounded by friends. Patricia had organized a party at her house, and nearly 50 people showed up. Tease members, women I'd helped through their own financial abuse situations, volunteers from the elementary school where I mentored, friends from my art class and yoga group. Sarah sent me a card and a small gift, a watercolor painting she'd done in an art class. It was simple, but beautiful. A sunrise over water. The card read, "Happy birthday, Mom. Every day I'm grateful you loved me enough to let me face consequences. Love, Sarah." I put the painting on my refrigerator. I'd finally finished paying off all the credit card debt the previous year. The credit card companies had forgiven most of it as fraud, but there were still some balances that were my responsibility. Between the restitution payments from Sarah and Derek, insurance settlements, and my own savings, I'd covered everything. My credit score had fully recovered. My retirement accounts were rebuilding. I'd even started traveling. I'd been to Santa Fe, Seattle, and was planning a trip to Ireland the following spring with Patricia and Linda. At the party, Patricia asked me to say a few words. 8 years ago, I began, I thought my life was ending. I'd discovered that my only daughter had stolen over $120,000 from me. I felt betrayed, devastated, and utterly alone. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. But what I actually lost was an illusion. I lost the fantasy of a loving daughter who saw me as a person. I lost the false belief that family will always choose love over money. I lost my naivete. And in losing those things, I gained so much more. I gained all of you, this beautiful community of strong, resilient people who chose to stand with me. I gained self-respect. I gained the knowledge that I could fight back, that I could choose myself, that I could survive and even thrive after betrayal. I gained a purpose. Through Tease, we've helped over 300 elderly people protect themselves from financial abuse. We've helped them file police reports, find lawyers, freeze their credit, cut off toxic family members. We've shown them that it's possible to fight back and win. Most importantly, I gained freedom. Freedom from the obligation to fund someone else's lifestyle. Freedom from the fear of disappointing people who didn't value me anyway. Freedom to live my own life on my own terms for my own happiness. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being my chosen family. Thank you for proving that blood isn't what makes a family. Love, respect, and mutual support are what make a family. And this, right here, is my family. The applause and tears were overwhelming. Linda hugged me. Carol toasted to the strongest woman we know. Janet presented me with a framed photograph of all of us at a Tease event with the caption, "Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's choosing each other, day after day." Later that evening, as I was cleaning up, my phone rang. It was Sarah. "Happy birthday, Mom. I hope you had a good day." "I did. Thank you for the painting. It's beautiful." "I wanted to call and tell you something. I got a promotion at work. I'm the assistant library director now, and I've paid off all my other debts. Starting next month, I'm increasing my restitution payments to you to $800 a month." "Sarah, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Mom, I stole from you. I owe you $121,000, and I'm going to pay it back if it takes the rest of my life. It's the least I can do." "How are you doing otherwise?" "Good. Really good, actually. I'm seeing someone, a nice guy, a teacher. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice. And I'm still in therapy, still working on myself. I'm not the person I was 8 years ago." "I'm glad." There was a pause.
Then Sarah said, "Mom, I don't expect us to ever be close again. I know I destroyed that, but I want you to know that I think about you every day. I think about the mother who raised me, who sacrificed everything for me, who loved me enough to hold me accountable. You're my hero, Mom, even though I'm the villain in your story." My throat tightened. "You're not a villain, Sarah. You're a person who made terrible choices and is working to make amends. That takes courage." "I learned that from you." After we hung up, I sat on my porch and watched the stars come out over Austin. My life hadn't turned out the way I expected. I'd thought I'd spend my retirement being a grandmother, babysitting Sarah's kids, hosting family dinners. Instead, I was spending it helping strangers, traveling with friends, painting watercolors, volunteering at schools, and living entirely for myself for the first time in my life. And it was better. Not easier, but better.
I'm 78 years old now, and I just received the final restitution payment from Sarah. $121,000, paid back in full over 10 years. She's done it. We have a cordial but distant relationship. We email occasionally. We talk on the phone for birthdays and holidays. Last year, she got married to that teacher she mentioned, Tom, a genuinely good man who knows our history and respects our boundaries. I didn't go to the wedding, but I sent a gift and a card wishing them well. She has a daughter now, my granddaughter, Emma. Sarah sends me pictures, and occasionally she asks if I'd like to video chat and meet her. I've done it a few times. Emma is beautiful. She has Sarah's eyes and my father's smile. Sarah is a good mother from what I can see. She works hard, lives within her means, and is teaching Emma the value of money and independence. She's doing what I should have done, letting her child struggle sometimes, teaching her to solve her own problems. Tease is thriving. We're now a registered nonprofit with a board of directors, a small staff, and chapters in 6 Texas cities. We've helped over 1,000 people protect themselves from financial elder abuse. Several of our members have gone on to become advocates themselves, speaking at conferences and training social workers. I'm writing a book about my experience. Michael Rodriguez is helping me make sure it's legally sound. Patricia is editing it. Linda is writing the foreword. It's called The Inheritance Trap: How I Survived Financial Abuse by My Own Daughter. We're hoping it will help other people recognize the warning signs earlier than I did. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. My house is paid off. I have enough in savings to live modestly but well. I travel twice a year. I paint. I volunteer. I spend time with my chosen family. Am I sad that Sarah and I don't have a traditional mother-daughter relationship? Sometimes, especially when I see other women with their daughters at brunch or shopping together. But then I remember what I had with Sarah before, a relationship built on money and manipulation, not love and respect. And I realize I'd rather have what I have now: honesty, boundaries, and peace. My father's life insurance money, the $76,000 that Sarah stole and slowly paid back, is sitting in a high-yield savings account. I've decided to leave it to Emma when she turns 30, with a letter explaining everything. I want her to know what her mother did, what her great-grandfather sacrificed, and what I learned about love, money, and family. The letter ends with this: Dear Emma, this money comes from your great-grandfather, a man who worked his entire life so his family could have security. It was stolen by your mother and paid back through 10 years of hard work and restitution. Now it's yours. But it comes with a responsibility. This money represents sacrifice, betrayal, redemption, and ultimately love. Use it wisely. Use it for education, for security, for building a life you can be proud of. And remember, family isn't defined by blood or money. It's defined by respect, honesty, and choosing to love someone even when it's hard. Your mother learned that lesson the hardest way possible. I hope you can learn it more easily.
Money is important, but it's not more important than integrity. Security is valuable, but it's not more valuable than self-respect. Family is precious, but not at the cost of your own well-being. Choose yourself when you need to, fight back when you're wronged, and never, ever let anyone, not even someone you love, treat you like an ATM with feelings. With love and hope for your future, your grandmother Margaret. I don't know if Sarah and I will ever fully reconcile. I don't know if I'll ever be a regular part of Emma's life, but I know I did the right thing. I protected myself, I held people accountable, and I built a new life from the ashes of the old one. And that's enough. My name is Margaret Peterson. I'm 78 years old, and I finally learned that the most important person you can save is yourself. If you enjoyed my story, you can support me by liking and sharing. It motivates me to create more heartfelt stories for you. Thank you so much in advance. Now tell me, what would you have done in this person's place? I'd really love to hear your thoughts, so share them with me in the comments below. I'm always curious about your opinions. Also, let me know where you first heard this story. For more inspiring life stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many more waiting for you. With warm regards, until next time.